Welcome to the Strong Legacy Podcast, a space where real stories of discipline, resilience, and purpose come to life. Today, we are joined by Mick Green and Tony Green from Harvey Bay, two men whose lifelong commitment to martial arts has shaped generations. Their journey is built on mentorship, community leadership, and the belief that discipline on the mats creates strength in everyday life. This episode explores how martial arts can guide young people, build character, and create legacy that lasts well beyond training halls. G'day, guys. How you guys going today?
Going well, Amit. Really well, mate.
Thank you for coming to the podcast. We'll straight away dive into the questions, and we go into the foundation and beginning. So, what first drew each of you to martial art, and how did your early training shape your mindset? I'll go to Brother Tony on this one first.
Okay, mate. We grew up with our dad training us in boxing from about 5 years old. It was real old school training. There was no pads. There was just some boxing gloves and coaching while we sparred each other. So it was very old school, like I said. So it was pretty heavy sparring when you reflect on it, which for a 5-year-old kids is pretty wild for a lot of people to see. But Dad, he was from that real world where you had to learn to take a punch, to give a punch, and didn't matter how skillful you were, if you couldn't handle that exchange, was no good to you. So we're certainly taught how to be fighters, probably before boxers, in hindsight. But he instilled the value of hard work, respect, and discipline, and the importance of being able to defend yourself in a world at a time where sometimes you had to fight. There was maybe no choice in the matter.
Oh, that's really good, brother. That's opens up a very interesting journey. To you, Brother Mick.
Yeah, I remember Dad. He had the 2 pairs of the old boxing gloves. I think he might have won them in one of his fights as a teenager when they used to travel from the farm might have even been Harvey Bay back in them days. They used to have tournaments. They would be training in the South Burnett there, in the rural areas out there. And then, I'm pretty sure he gave us 2 sets of gloves that he got from those days. So they were dated way back from when he was a teenager, and they were like way too big, and I don't even think the laces were done up. I'm not sure, but I was a little bit shy and reluctant at first to do it, but thankfully Dad encouraged me, and he really helped me to sort of use the boxing and training with Brother Tony as a really good way that I could build my confidence and build my courage and my resilience. So, and Dad did always emphasize that. I remember strongly, he'd always emphasize us, hey, don't hurt each other, show some style, he would say. So show some good technique. You're not here to hurt each other. But he would coach us to block and deliver the combinations and a bit of footwork, and he really instilled that initial foundation through the boxing.
That's really lovely. That's a really great foundation that you guys came through. So with that leads to the next question. Who were the mentors who influenced in your younger age years, and what lessons stayed with you? I'll go to Brother Mick on this one first again.
Yeah, well, it was actually probably initially through the junior rugby league days, actually, in the South Burnett there, where we played. I remember playing from, I think it was under 8s through to under 18s in junior rugby league for the Mergen Mustangs and South Burnett and those out there. And some of my earliest mentors that I remember would be probably my junior rugby league coaches, the likes of Cole Ramke and Ralph Beddoes, even Roger Webber and Greg Minns. These people really sort of dedicated a lot of their personal time to helping to support and to encourage all us young rugby league players out there, and to really encourage us to train hard and to prepare for the weekend matches against all the other teams. Yeah, so, and there was a lot of kindness. I remember feeling a lot of kindness where, when someone really looks at you and you can feel that they genuinely care about who you are, any difficulty, any challenges you might be facing, and they kind of really sort of support you and encourage you. So yeah, the junior rugby league days were my earliest mentors. Before I left school, I ended up going through a lot of difficult times, just in the high school time there at Mergen. And I remember, yeah, as much as mum and dad and brother Tony were really supported me and encouraged, I was on my own little journey where I kind of overcomplicated life. I had a lot of heavy emotions, and I ended up leaving school halfway through year 12, and which would have been a concern for my parents, no doubt, but they knew that I needed to go on a bit of a soul searching journey to really find myself and to work a lot of stuff out. So I did leave Mergen, and I went to live at Kingaroy for a while. And then I went out to the Sunshine Coast, and that's when I started training Muay Thai. And I remember one of my mentors there was Nick Tumafai. He had a Muay Thai stable of fighters out there in the Caboolture, and his brother was at Bribie Island, if I remember rightly, and we trained really hard in that area. Then when I came back to the farm to visit parents, another really strong mentor was Lionel Graham, who had a Hwarang Do. It's like a Korean martial arts combination of Taekwondo and Hapkido, but he had some really good classes that he was facilitating at the Mergen YMCA venue there. And I remember Tony and me and even sister Belinda were training with Lionel. He became a really close family friend, to the point we'd train, then he'd come out to the farm, and mum would have a meal there. We'll have a meal together. Then Lionel and myself and Dad would have a few games of pool and a couple of beers and out the back and have a talk. And Lionel would actually stay at our home out on the farm, and Dad would wake him up the next morning to go to. He worked at the Mergen council, I think, and he'd go in there and work, and he was doing that every week for a long time. So he was because we would talk about life, talk about martial arts, talk about life difficulties, and so he was a martial arts teacher, but he was also a really close friend and a close mentor. He was a few years older than us, and yeah, really awesome person. It really helped a lot. Yeah, but we trained also when I went to Sunshine Coast. I trained with Roger and Joe Hilton with the kickboxing and the Muay Thai there in the Sunshine Coast. Yeah, so, and also when I finally found a freestyle martial arts club that I really resonated with, Kevin Wormington was a really strong mentor and helped to shape my martial arts journey, and eventually gave me opportunities to become an assistant instructor, and to build my confidence. And that's how it all led up to coming to the Fraser Coast and opening up the integrated martial arts from there. So
Oh, it's a really good journey. And again, like, how important are those mentors, that shaped and made the person who you are now. So thank you for sharing that, brother. We'll jump into brother Tony now.
Yeah, it was much the same journey for me, being from Mergen and growing up beside Mick. We played footy. I had an awesome coach. Bill Adcock was his name. He was only a short little guy, but he was as hard as nails, and I had him nearly for majority of my rugby league years as a junior, and then even as a 16-year-old, he'd take me to A-grade training with him because he played A-grade, and he'd get me out there with the men that I looked up to since I was a child, and have me train with them, with the A-graders. So, and it was only another year. I was only 17, and I got to run on the same field as him, win a grand final, A-grade grand final as a 17-year-old, even though it was, you know, I didn't really have any impact on the game, but it was just a journey that that considering he put that faith in me as a kid, and I was still a kid playing A-grade in a pretty tough sport, and yeah, he was just that bloke that you know, look you, like Mick said, look you in the eye and connect with you, reassure you that you had what it took to do whatever you wanted. So yeah, so same journey with the rugby league, just hard, good human beings, you know, that put their soul into you. And from there, I stayed with rugby league for a long time, left and went to Brisbane, that sort of thing. But also I did a little bit of training with Lionel, a family friend that Mick was talking about. Wasn't really until I left rugby league as in my early 20s and started working on doors on the Sunshine Coast that I started training again a little bit more, you know, I didn't join any flight teams, but I had some pretty interesting role models, like that were part of our security crews. You know, they all had their own skills. I was living with a first generation Zendo Kai black belt, Mick Allen, who was I think he trained directly under likes of Rod Stroud and Bob Jones and all those guys. And in Western Australia, he was based. And he was my roommate. And so we do a little bit together, and a lot of security type stuff, real life stuff. So again, even like with our flight training with Dad, most of my training in those days was just the real thing, like in the street and ending up in altercations and basically on the job training, you could say, I guess. In those days, it was pretty wild, Sunshine Coast. Yeah. Wild times, you know, that fights were every night occurrence, and I guess there's no training like the real thing, I guess. So that was yeah, so that was they were the sort of mentors that I had in those days, just older guys, been in jobs like security for a lot longer, done their time in martial arts, you know, and it was just me learning from them, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really nice to hear that. You know, the older, more experienced people, you know, sort of providing that guidance and showing how to be a man, actually. So, oh, that's really good.
I remember I'll share one amusing story with you about Mick and about how the young bull can sometimes need a kick up the arse. So, we were working on the door together at Mooloolaba, and it was pretty serious. Yeah, a guy had one of the managers had died, been stabbed in recent years, and there was a knife issue and whatever. And there was one night in particular, some young guy, and he obviously was carrying it out of fear because, you know, it wasn't like he was experienced with it, but he pulled a knife out, and Mick and I both got a hold of him, and I must have been watching too many Steven Seagal movies or something. So gone for some big wrist lock, elbow crank type thing, and about the closest anyone got to getting cut was me trying this maneuver, and Mick just looked at me with his eyes like this and shaking his head. Basically, I'll talk to you later, boy. Yeah, so those sort of lessons you learn, you're lucky to get away with. That what you see in the movies isn't always the way it works out the street.
If you want to learn real way how to do it, join a good club where they teach you actually how to do it.
That's right. Don't go watching the movies.
Don't watch TikToks.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty real story there. Thank you very much for sharing that. How did martial arts become a central part of your guys' life and your family?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, when I moved up to the Fraser Coast, I initially moved out to Burham Heads. I think that was in that must have been in 2002. That was because I when I found that good freestyle martial arts club at the Sunshine Coast. It was on Chambers Island, and Kev Wormington sort of mentored me and supported me and encouraged me to go right through to the full grading curriculum, which I sort of always previously had hesitated. Didn't really know if I wanted to commit myself to the formal gradings. I was just there to sort of for my own learning how to extend my fighting abilities and also to build up my confidence and to keep fit and strong and healthy and everything like that. And yeah, he did encourage me to go through the grading system, but it ended up being a really good thing that helped really set me up for being able to have the opportunity to do what I'm doing now. So I'm very grateful. I remember the first time Kev asked me, he knew I was a bit of a shy, sort of not 100% confident kind of young fella, and he said, Mick, would you like to come out the front here and take the first part of the class, to be like an assistant instructor? And I had that anxiety, that fear about doing it initially. And then I sort of looked at him, I said, oh, I'm not really a leader, I said to him. And embarrassing to say, really admit, but I said, I'm not really a leader, I'm more of a follower or something. And as soon as I said it, I thought, that's sort of didn't feel right. It felt pathetic.
Yeah.
It felt weak. Felt a bit sort of like coward. But I was sort of my fear and my doubt and my anxiety, which I sort of did suffer from a fair bit of that as a young fella, just for whatever reason. Not really about other people, fear about other people, but more of a fear about life itself. Like it was overwhelming to me. It felt like I'd get confused very easily, and I couldn't speak clearly, and I thought there was something wrong with me, all these self-doubt things. So, but Kev, when I said that, I put my head down, he allowed me to say that, and he didn't pressure me. He didn't make me feel ashamed of myself or guilty or anything like that. But you know what? When I drove home that night after that, after the class finished, I actually reflected on it, and I remember tearing up as I was driving home, and like
Yeah.
tears were rolling down my cheeks, and I'm thinking, you know what? Do I want to be a prisoner of this stuff for the rest of my life, or do I want to be able to dig deep and go on a journey where I can overcome that kind of anxiety, overcome that negative thought, overcome that self-doubt, overcome the fear? What do I need to do, to become more confident and to have more inner strength and more courage? So next time that I came to that martial arts club, and Kev asked me, and I straight away I nodded my head, yep, I'll do it, and I walked out the front there in front of the whole class and and taught the class, and it went really well. And it's that was like a catalyst, I believe, like a turning point catalyst inside myself that very
Yeah.
moment. Always remember that really strongly. And yeah, and then I ended up going through the gradings, training for my first degree black belt. Back in the day, I was having struggle trying to learn the kata and all that. I just thought
Yeah.
something's blocking me. I was trying to overthink it and trying to intellectualize it, and I just, instead of giving up, I just thought, oh, there's got to be a way to learn this. And I'd walk down to the beach at night under the stars on the sand and just sort of internalize it. Just instead of thinking so much about it in my head, I'd sort of try to feel connected more spiritually and energetically to the different segments, the different movements within the kata. And that was another breakthrough I had. I discovered that there's another kind of access to a different form of intelligence besides just the intellect of the brain. So, and when and I'm up reading a book also from Bruce Lee, The Tao of Jeet Kune Do, and I remember really loving that book. And he studied a lot of philosophy too, Bruce Lee, back in the day, and I really resonated. Everything that was written in there really resonated with, and it sort of bolstered me, the path that I was on, and I started to see martial arts not just for fighting and for you know winning tournaments and stuff like that, winning fights. It became like a pathway, like a journey of self-development, a journey of personal transformation in like mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, more of a holistic way. And then I really embraced martial arts. I sort of fell in love with martial arts to an even deeper dimension. And that sort of gravitated me through. After I got my second degree black belt, I remember I think I started getting a bit of a calling to kind of go into the arena and have some proper MMA fights. And the sport of MMA had really started to become strong just at that era. What we'd be talking probably 1997, 98, 99, back in those days.
Mm.
And Tony and I and a few other friends and even my martial arts instructor, credit to Kev, he said, yeah, well, let's sit down and let's go through all these mixed martial arts techniques, the submission grappling, the ground fighting, and see what we can incorporate and include within the freestyle martial arts training and teaching curriculum, just to sort of expand and make it more versatile, more effective in all the different scenarios. So yeah, and then I fought in Sydney in that tournament, the Pancrase Australia mixed martial arts tournament in Sydney, and I did have some good success with that, and some Japanese, I think, talent scouts were there from Pancrase, Japan, and they got me out the back after that event, and they said they're really interested to have me join into the Pancrase Japan organization to go over there and have a fight over there in Tokyo, which was a pretty big decision, because I said don't really know if I want to make sort of like a career out of martial arts, mixed martial arts. I sort of hesitated, but I had a talk with Tony, and I had a talk with Dad and with Mum and my martial arts instructor, and they said, if you want to do it, if you think it's going to be beneficial and an empowering experience, we're all going to be behind you. And I decided, yeah, as sort of daunting as it was, let's set that goal. Let's do it. And all the paperwork was signed, and the date got set, and Tony and I started preparing, training for it, leading up to that. Then we were like training at the Maroochydore Club. I think we started an entire new day. We invited all the different people. There are a lot of security guards from the Sunshine Coast and other martial artists and friends that all rock up there at the sailing club at Maroochydore, and we'd all train, and everyone would helping me prepare for that event in Japan. Yeah. So, and then when I came back from there, I think it was a might have been only within 2 weeks later, Tony, that I had that fight at Brisbane at the arena in Fortitude Valley. And I think it was the main event of the Ultimate Fight Night event. Can you remember who organised that? Who put that event on? I think it was
Jimmy Cash, was it? Or
yes, I think it was
Jimmy.
Yeah.
In those days, the martial arts.
Yeah. And I think Justin Lawrence was sort of like my manager, and he supported me a lot. I got to give a lot of credit to Justin Lawrence. He really supported me and encouraged me throughout that entire journey. And even though after that fight in Fortitude Valley at the arena against Luke Picklum, who I've actually become friends with him recently. I don't know if I even told you, but he's connected to me on social media, and he's I think he's really inspired to see the journey, that he was part, like fighting against those guys. You know as well as we do, Amit, when you're going into a fight, it's not really your enemy, it's not really your opposition, it's kind of like a mutual opportunity that both of you people, warriors inside that daunting arena, you're helping each other to grow and to develop all those qualities, the inner strength, the courage, the determination. So you've kind of come out the other side with a bond and a mutual respect for that person that you shared that experience with. And it sort of propelled you forward into the future. You help each other to grow. That it's amazing. That's why I love martial arts so much. The framework, it's very symbolic to life and to personal development.
So yeah, you touched on a very interesting point there, brother. Like you go in there. A lot of people say bad things about martial art, fighting and stuff like that. And people that actually fight and have fought, they have a different outlook to fighting in the cage or ring. It's because you go and test yourself against a person who's trained, who's prepared, and you go and test your skills against that a person that is good. So, and then it's a test of skills, knowledge, and your endurance and your resilience. And after that, it's all handshake and become mates. And a lot of people that even when I've fought, they became really good mates. After the fight, it's only a beer. It's a tradition. After the fight, the winner shouts the beer to the loser. It's just that's just the way it is. But the way society sometimes sees is different. But like you said it, like it's a journey you both go through and going through. So no, thank you for sharing that. Well, brother Mick, brother Tony, what was your
it's same story. That was when I really actually started training a little bit of martial arts, and MMA was help prepare Mick for those tournaments. And it's a real shame some of those early tournaments we don't have footage, because even the stories of those events was like just so different to it than it is these days. Like I think the Pancrase tournament was an 8-man tournament where you fought potentially if you won through 3 times in one night. And really we didn't have any real ground skills. It was all improvisation, and especially for that first tournament that Mick did. And I still remember, it can get a little bit political in Sydney with BJJ in those days. If you weren't a BJJ guy and you weren't a reputable, like one of the big teams, you sort of, flat out getting a hello from a lot of these guys back in those days. But Mick certainly won us a bit of respect that night, because he knocked the first opponent out, and then I think was it the second guy, or was it the final Mick that so we were
mine was a 4-man tournament, so I only had to fight twice. The winner of the other semi-final. I matched him in the final. I think it was 10-minute first round back then, wasn't it?
Yeah, so we were watching them the way they would shoot in and take you down and that sort of thing. So I said to Mick, I said, well, instead of playing their game, why don't we just work to your strengths and precision punching? And so all we did, I borrowed some time mitts because we didn't even have any mitts for our warm-up, and they sort of frowned on us a bit for even asking to borrow some equipment for the warm-up. And anyway, so what I do is I'd sort of shoot in as if I was taking Mick down. I just had the focus mitt in front, and instead of like sprawling back or moving forward with a knee, we decided, well, what if we just move that front leg behind you, like just switch angles, move the front leg behind, and just precision punch. Yeah. And anyways, so we run through that probably, I don't know, over and over again in the warm up, and yeah, the fight as it was going along, finally old mate shot in and Mick just dropped the angle, turned the corner exactly how we planned, and just hit him on the chin. He basically spun around the spot and just unconscious out. so you can imagine, like,
the crowd went numb.
We just made this move up, and Mick's pulled it off, and he's won the tournament. We're like beside ourselves. We're that excited. So it was very cool. And as Mick said, then, because he had some other fights, we started, well, we better learn a bit of this grappling stuff, start working it out. We'd be rolling around the backyard with sticks and bits of dirt and grass in our hair, and it was ridiculous when you look back. You look back and you think, this is the way old country boys did things. They just, well, how about we try this? It didn't matter if it was on the dirt or on the grass, or we were just training whenever we got a chance to train together. So it was very cool. So that kicked me off and got me a little bit excited about the sport, I guess. And I probably thought, well, you've really never been tested as far as getting in the ring or the cage with, like you were talking about before, Amit, another trained man that's at least your equal, if not better. And so I decided to have a couple of fights. But that was where the journey really kicked off for me, because because I really enjoyed the grappling side of things, judo, pure wrestling, BJJ. So I started going up to Brizzy, training with Chris Haseman and Dan Higgins. In time, Dan was living on the north side and I was at Caboolture, and so in the end we decided, well, we're doing all this traveling, we should just start our own crew. So I spoke to Mick, and Mick gave us the blessing to start integrated MMA, which ended up at one stage it's well and truly considered still as one of the top MMA teams in Australia. So we formed integrated MMA in Brisbane. Dan Higgins was the head coach, and we had guys like Roberto Traven and a few other BJJ guys come in at different times and whatever, but generally Dan Higgins was the head coach back in those days, and we had young fighters like Kyle Noak and Adrian Pang come through the ranks and win Australian titles. And Adrian now runs the gym in Brisbane on the north side there. It's an awesome gym. If you ever get the chance, go and check it out. So Adrian Pang now retired, so he runs the gym there. And then from there we basically, I can't even really remember how I think Mick was already up here in Harvey Bay, and then I moved up, and so we both ended up in Harvey Bay, as synchronicity has it, because it was meant to be, obviously. So there was a Muay Thai fight night promoted by Craig Glover on before we really got to know anybody, and I said to Mick, because they had a tough man event on the same night, and they had like a middleweight tournament and a heavyweight tournament going. So I said to Mick, well, I reckon to introduce yourself to Harvey Bay, how about we go and get some fight shorts and a mouth guard, and I'll bring them back and we'll jump in our respective divisions. And yeah, so Dad, as you can imagine, Dad was pretty excited, so because he was there, so he was our corner man, and we basically, long story short, got the win in both the divisions in the night, and celebrated all together and introduced Harvey Bay to who we were, and I guess it was a lot quicker way than door knocking and saying hello to people in those days, because everyone loved the Harvey Bay fight night, so pretty awesome. Craig guys run a good show, and he ended up being my Muay Thai coach for a couple of years while I explored a couple more MMA fights. So yeah, we had some awesome opportunities from that. You know, I took guys to Thailand to train with Fairtex. I found my true calling, which wasn't really the fighting, was probably managing stuff like that. So yeah, we had sponsors like Fairtex, and we'd go over there yearly and train Muay Thai with some of those incredible fighters over there, coaches, and that was really my only true, what I'd say was a martial arts journey for me, was those Harvey Bay years until I retired. So awesome memories.
So definitely golden memories, I call it. Who needs a mat when you got the grass? Country boys will be country boys. Hey, and that's the same thing. That a lot of people look for perfect condition, perfect gyms to train. It just shows, you don't need any of that if you really wanna do something. So no, kudos to you guys, man. It's really good. So we'll move on to the mentorship and leadership. What does good mentorship look like in martial art and in life for you, Brother Tony?
For me, I've always believed that leadership is really something that should be earned, not demanded, or just putting yourself in a position of leadership. Like even with Mick's situation that he was talking about earlier, his coach saw something in him that had to be developed, as far as that confidence to be a leader. And I think everyone under the right circumstances can be a leader. Like at the end of the day, we're all well and truly got the capability to lead people. It's just a matter of the type of mentors you have. Is that it's your only limits in life, really, and the limits that either other people put on you or that you end up putting on yourself because of lack of confidence. So I think the important part of it is being able to set an example to whoever you're coaching, that you have their best interests at heart, the team's best interests, not just self-interest. A lot of people these days are sort of, more worried about how they're looking or how they're gonna end up, rather than bringing out the very best in people, So I think if you speak the truth from the heart, doing what's right, being authentic, not pretending to be what you're not or what you think people expect you to be, because that's a big issue these days. Everyone wants to be that Insta-famous person, so they sort of start not being authentic and not being themselves. And I think people really, especially in a face-to-face environment, at the end of the day, it really starts to shine through if you're an authentic person, just being yourself and not trying to be someone else.
No, yeah, that's a really good advice there, brother. Brother Mick.
Yeah, well, I'm totally aligned with what Tony was expressing there, with developing strong bonds of mutual respect and trust. And as
Yeah.
Tony said, trust is earned through that genuine care and the kindness and the understanding when somebody can really sense that you really understand them and you got that authentic care and compassion and kindness, because that really, when you think about it, it creates those natural deeper connections of camaraderie and friendship and brotherhood, with the people. That you're not trying to stand above them or look down on them. You really want to uplift them and bring them up, to empower them and make them feel, my potential is amazing and I can really live my life to the fullest. And this person's here standing beside me and they care about me and they want to support me on that journey. And if we have any difficulties on the path to that goal with that intention, it can be an opportunity to make us stronger and to deepen that conviction and commitment that we have, so that it's all, that's why I think we called integrated martial arts with strength and courage. Strength and courage has been a huge thing. And when you talk about strength, inner strength is what it's all about, really, isn't it? And it gives you that resilience and the courage to overcome fear and difficulty. So I think that it really comes down to that supportive guidance and encouragement, genuinity, and care, and earning that respect with the people you're seeking to mentor and support.
Yeah, no, that's a true words there, brother. How have you seen martial arts transform young people in the community? Brother Mick, you can go first.
Yeah, well, as well as the general classes for integrated martial arts, I've started with the dojo in Burham Heads, of course, way back when I just started training when I moved to Burham Heads in after I came back from Japan and had that last fight. And sort of I got on the microphone and I said, like, this is kind of my retirement sort of fight. Wasn't a huge career in martial arts, but I had another calling. I knew there was a deep calling inside me to that I was being sort of called in a different direction. Then I thought if I pursued the mixed martial arts as a career, because I know the Japanese organizers did invite me to continue on over there and to go back to Tokyo and to live. They have international students. Sometimes they'll pay for you to live like an Ushideshi student and train, and then once at the end of every month you're matched up with another fighter and they support you. Very generous thing to be offered. And that was difficult for me because I had this other calling, a bit more of a calling with youth support work and helping people, more of a spiritual sort of pursuit into the future. And so when I kind of declined that as politely as I possibly could, I think that was a difficult thing, because I felt like I was letting people down and I was offending people, and no one probably had any expectations or anything. They weren't really pressuring me, so to speak, but I think I put that pressure on myself, and I struggle with that sort of that guilt. Am I making the right decision? These people have invested time into me and trust, and I know the Pancrase Australia organisation would have potentially wanted me to go and defend that title, that middleweight Pancrase title, which, I think I might have even harmed their organisation by sort of heading off into my own calling. But I just hope, looking back on it, everybody understands now that all these years have transpired that it was a genuine calling and I did make the right decision. I've been able to help a lot of people in that journey from that time till now. Yeah, and when I got to Burham Heads, I just started training. And because when I trained at Maroochydore too, Kev Wormington, such a humble, generous, kind human being he is. His Maroochydore Martial Arts Club was an incorporated association. It wasn't a business. He was the first person to pay his fees. And we'd have our meetings, and someone was the treasurer and someone was the secretary, and everybody sort of supported. It's an incorporated association, the Martial Arts Club. So when I went to Burham Heads, that's exactly what I ended up doing, because I just hired the hall, and there was a couple of young fellas started training, local kids started training with me in the Burham. It was more of a smaller sort of fishing community out there, but especially back in them days. But the couple of kids that trained with me, they absolutely loved it, and they thought, can you start a club here at Burham Heads? We got all the friends, tell all those friends at school, and we want to join in, we want to learn it. So I went to, I think it was the Department of Fair Trading, and got the name Integrated Martial Arts Academy Association Incorporated. That's what it originally was called, because it was just a not-for-profit community incorporated association. We had treasures, we had the book, we'd have the meetings, and I was only charging like $2 a session, and people just chucked that $2 in the box or whatever it was. We didn't have any money tills, but when we'd pay the rent of the monthly rent of the Burham Heads Hall, and after a few months, a bit left over, we might put it together and buy a new kick shield or something like that, and it really flourished at Burham Heads. One minute we had 2 students, and next minute I turn up and there's kids hanging off the balcony, kids jumping over the bike racks, and people, must have been about 20 or 30 kids all waiting. And back in the Burham Heads days, and I knew then, I thought, okay, well, no turning back now. I got to and I think we got a $500 grant from the Department of Sport and Recreation for a new sport enterprise. We got $500 given to us from the government. We bought martial arts equipment, and it just really kicked off from there. And some of the early students worked their way up the gradings, and one of the girls actually, Tanya Mackenzie, when we eventually moved to train at the Dundowran Hall instead of the Burham Heads one, she actually would go out there, and she opened up her own branch at Burham Heads while simultaneously taught at the Dundowran. So it's kind of spread, and after she earned her black belt, she got to help out the kids and help them. And then when she had a grading, I'd drive out there to Burham Heads and be there beside her. It was really special times, actually, all those times. But after about 4 or 5 years at Burham Heads, and it really went well. I was also training at the PCYC as a volunteering. I wasn't being paid for it initially. And Sergeant Patrick Fleming, he was the initial person that really seen the value and the contribution in what I was doing. And I think he put an article in the Fraser Coast Chronicle about the fighting, about this new person's come to our Fraser Coast, and he's offering to teach integrated martial arts to all the young people in our community. And he gave me a time slot on the Monday back in probably at the end of 2002 or the very beginning of 2003. And you know what? That Monday class is still going to this day. And it's one of the most well attended and sort of monumental classes in the whole integrated. With a lot of the kids come to it. It's more of a foundation building class. But Sergeant Pat Fleming really was a big supporter of what I was doing back then, and he ended up sort of bringing me in like a martial arts instructor, a paid martial arts instructor within the Hervey Bay PCYC, and I worked for many years. I think it might have been about 12 12 or so years in that role in there, and got to see generations upon generations of young kids coming in and growing up and developing all those qualities that we can develop through martial arts training. But yeah.
No, that's really good good journey there, brother. With that, I know you don't like to take credit for it, but your input there has made a massive change. Like, from you being scared to step in there to lead the class, to then starting a club, to then empowering the next generation, and now the next generation are training the next generation under that umbrella, your philosophy and your martial arts. So no, that's kudos to you, brother.
Yeah, it's
Um,
very
from
impressive.
Tony?
Like
Yeah.
that side of Mick's work, it's something I've always been very impressed and grateful for myself. My own children, I had them train with Mick since they were old enough to train, probably before they were old enough to train. But yeah, like son and daughter, that I just saw so much value. And as you said, there's been 2, if not 3 generations of young people that have gone through the same process. And I've heard countless times young people reflect on how Mick changed their lives in a positive way. One particular, it really struck me how when generations go through. Oh, this story was interesting because it was one of Mick's yearly friendship MMA tournaments that he runs, where the competitors of all ages and skill levels, test their skills, face their fears in friendly competition. So one of these events, one of the older guys actually approached me after the event, and he said, and again, the synchronicities of how paths interact is incredible, because he said at one time he was sort of off the rails, and that he found himself in prison at Maryborough Correctional Centre, where I've worked since it was open, and said he was going through a really tough time mentally and getting in trouble, and found himself ending up in conflicts with the staff, and force had to be used on him. And he said one such occasion, when he was at his lowest, I happened to be the response officer that had to deal with him, and it happens pretty regularly, so I couldn't remember the individual incident, but he said that once I had ground stabilized him and settled him down, that I basically said that along the lines of him to him, young fella, is this the way you're going to spend the rest of your life, doing this shit? And he said that was just having that word to him was the catalyst of him making a decision that no, he didn't want to spend the rest of his life, in jail, getting upended by staff, getting in fights. He was more than that. So just so happens, as soon as he got out of jail, he went and started cleaned his life up, got rid of the friends that were getting him in trouble, started training with Mick. And it was only because I turned up at this friendship tournament that he saw me, and to his credit, he walked over and he shook my hand and he thanked me and said that Mick had changed his life, and that this is the reason that was the catalyst of him sorting his life out. So something like that is, it just makes you feel so good when, like, not even a kid, a grown man can change his, future just through dedicating himself to and having the right people there at the right time to have that word to him. So, yeah, that was one thing, one time that really stood out to me is like the impact that you can have, even just from, showing a little bit of compassion or a little bit of empathy when a person's at their lowest and saying the right words to them, So, sometimes it doesn't take much.
Yeah, no, and I've seen it, and seen you guys do it so often. Like, there's so many stories out there that people have changed their life because they've done the integrated mixed martial art in Harvey Bay, and it's credit to you guys. Like it's not many people out there like that, mate. Like a lot of people talk big but don't deliver. If you know what I mean. Uh, but you guys do things from the heart, and that just shows your foundation. Rolling around in the grass and humble people going through, and then teaching people the right view is about fighting. Is not just about beating people up, and so there's a good history there. What you guys are saying. So no, kudos to you guys, man. Very not many people like that out there.
And the best thing, I think, that I made a choice with the encouragement from Tony and my family too, I actually closed Integrated Martial Arts Academy in Burham Heads Down for a period of about 6 months, and I decided to go on a bit of a journey. I think I was towing a caravan behind a Land Cruiser and traveled up north. This was in, I think, 2005, and I studied through the home correspondence, a certificate in small business management, because when I first had Integrated Martial Arts Association, I think I was on Centrelink payments, Social Security payments. I was working as a volunteer for free with at the PCYC, and I was doing a little bit of casual cash work here and there, but I was putting so much time, and I knew that was my future, the calling. And we had a family discussion, and I decided to open up the Integrated Development Academy. So therefore, it wasn't just limited to the pursuit of martial arts. This became anything to do with health, well-being, harmony, mind, body, and spirit. More of a holistic. So martial arts is a part of it, but the Integrated Development Academy became the umbrella organization that martial arts was one facet of it. And then because when I ended up finishing that Cert 4, I went to live at Palmwoods in an old cottage, like a barn. I remember I had to study stuff there, and you'd climb up a ladder and sleep up in the roof of the barn, and just really part of my sort of personal journey. And then I started practicing yoga as well. So the martial arts, I still love martial arts to this day, but bringing in other aspects into that journey into the Integrated Development Academy was one of the best decisions I've ever made as well, because all the schools and the youth organizations, community groups, they really seen that as an opportunity to create programs, to bring me into some of their large programs, government funded programs, and to help these young people in the community. And then when I met you, Amit, back this was back in 2015, started 2016. I think I was doing the MMA classes even at the PCYC. You'd have to unpack the mats and put them out there and put them all back together. And I was just hiring that room, and so many people loved it. And I was also wanted to be teaching the yoga and everything. So it was you that actually got to thank you for helping me to actually seed that vision of the Integrated Martial Arts Wellbeing Centre in Harvey Bay, which now I'm able to do all the classes there. I still train at the Dundarran dojo for more the traditional kind of martial arts classes out there, but that was the best thing. And everybody that helped me, that Wellbeing Centre, it's like such a beautiful place where people can converge and and go on a journey of personal development, martial arts in all its different forms, strength training, fitness training, yoga, and more the spiritual stuff as well. So I sometimes got to pinch myself and think this seems too good to be true. But remember, initially I hesitated. I even had a fear of that, of integrated wellbeing center. I thought, oh no, that's I don't know, it might be too much responsibility or too much pressure and too much financial worries and all that. And
Yeah,
you said, no, brother, we should do it. Remember the
remember
dream.
we were sitting underneath the stars, or sometimes underneath brother Tony's flat room around the fire one time. We were talking about it, and then we were Cara Gardens a couple of times.
That's
We
right,
had
yeah.
our meetings there, and that's when no, but the reason I wanted you to there's another reason behind it, but I don't want to talk on the line about that reason. But the main reason was to you had so much stuff you're doing, and you just didn't have a temp basically, and it's a place where I could see what you have, and it was just spread out too much, and a lot of people were taking advantage of that. Just wanted to make sure you had somewhere, place where you can actually deliver those things much better, and a place with home. And
Yeah.
I still love to this day when I go to Harvey Bay, I go to the gym and train there. It just feels so, I feel the power in there, if you know what I mean. It's
Yeah.
a very positive energy, and I can only understand other people how they feel when they go there. So it's what you've created there, brother. It's very powerful, and you can't do that from the other places. So that was the
Mm.
thing. And remember, while we were doing that, then you're like, and I'm like, we should have a cage. And then next thing you know, you said, well, there's a cage for sale right now.
Yeah. And the Gold Coast hinterland, the road trip to pick it up, I remember that.
Yeah, so but everything lined up, and like I said, just on that note, before I get to sidetracks, but COVID happened. A lot of gyms, big gyms, and stuff are gone. You know, they didn't survive that. But integrated well-being center is still standing tall there, and I think next year is going to be 10 years, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Definitely, yeah. We're 10
So
years next year,
just
yes.
just shows, brother, good intentions and your power, and the place got its own energy. Like I know we went to plead with the landlord to
Yeah.
do a spell up, but it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
But the
And you
thing
know
is,
what? The community support that we've had
yeah,
for that place is amazing. There's 3 or 4 local businesses that have been contributing into that center, and we put the banners proudly up on the wall. Integrated Wellbeing Center is proudly sponsored by, and we've got those guys permanently up there. And without that sort of support and trust and backing, it would have been very difficult financially. So yeah, I've got a lot of people to thank. The people that originally, it wasn't just me that started that. It's the whole network of
yeah,
friends and family and support. And I don't see that, like, I don't own that. Everybody that contributed to that, we've all got a sense of equal ownership and connection through that. And yeah, so I just want to really mention that. I respect and am very grateful for everybody that has contributed for me to be able to do what I'm doing and help so many people. They help me to be able to help others.
well, you're doing an amazing job there, and I think not a single person out there think anything else. A a temple needs a priest, and you're the priest there, and you're the head priest, and you needed that. And that's the temple. So you're doing an amazing job there, and you're saving so many young people's lives. Like Brother Tony said, we're gonna start with these young people so they don't end up in jail. So this all happens, and everything happens for a reason, and everything aligns for a reason. So yeah. So you should take credit when sometimes credits are given, brother. It's not a bad thing. I tell you what, nobody else could have done that. COVID, a lot of things have failed. That gym that you've been running there is still going. So that's something to be proud of, brother. And that's something
Thank
to
you.
show that it's got powerful. And you did it. we all have in some way, shape, or form, but you're the person on ground doing it. So take those credits, bro. It's okay.
And there's the likes of Royce. Royce is there doing the Muay Thai. Young Tyson Katevsky, a young fellow that Tony would remember too. And he's really standing up strong, and he's facilitating a few classes every week there now, and everyone loves his classes, and he's got really good attitude and very kind-hearted, good-hearted young fella, and he's a good teacher as well. Yeah, Josh Seedsman has helped, and back in the day there was Greg Atzuru, there was Simon Lamanu, there was Narelle Leahy, all these people. It was all a big network, wasn't it?
And it's and people help build things, and there are more people come help build, and little things everybody contributes. So, and that's a good thing. But end of the day, the temple needs a head priest.
The journey continues, mate. It's
And
not
journey
over.
continues.
We're just warming up.
yeah. On the other note, what have been the toughest challenges in your martial art careers, and how did you overcome them?
You go, bro.
Oh, okay. Did have a little note here somewhere in relation to that. Yeah, martial arts I never really saw as like a like I guess a challenge as such. I don't know. I always put it in perspective to what it was, but probably the most I learnt from actually martial arts, as in the fighting side of things, was probably to do with that XFC title fight that I had, where you're on a mission, and I'd done this and I'd done that in different sports. I had an awesome following of people, and I guess I guess what happens is that you probably get caught up in the ego side of things, and one thing I have found in recent years is that the universe will give you what you need, not particularly what you think you want. And so basically coming into that title fight, I was fittest, strongest, most skilled I'd ever been in a martial arts sense, and it was for Australian title. And the night before, I ended up with like terrible food poisoning, where basically I was bedridden, and the whole intention of that fight was I was going to make a donation and dedicate it to my auntie, who was at the time dying of cancer. So that I wanted to perform well, and I had all these reasons to win this title and become this champion. And so I got food poisoning, and the whole next day I was bedridden, no food, vomiting, sitting on the toilet was the only time I got out of bed, just fully destroyed. Anyway, so Mick knocked on the door and said, it's time to get on the bus and go to this fight. And so I said, I've just got to get in the shower, and jumped up, had a shower, and I had this moment where basically, whether it happened or not, all I know is the lights went out in the shower. I spewed my guts up in the shower in the hotel, and I bawled my eyes out. And knowing that, and you start questioning, should I even fight? Should I postpone it? I'm not going to be able to perform. You have all this stuff going on in your head. And I had this moment of clarity when these lights went out and I vomited and cried like a kid, that your auntie, you've never heard her complain once, going through all the treatments and whatever of cancer, and you're dedicating this fight to her, and you're questioning whether you're going to get in there and, you know, just get in a boxing ring and, you know, superficial stuff with his referee and whatever, that life goes on, and you're questioning whether you should get in there. And it was a moment of clarity and a big reduction in ego, I guess, of what was truly important in life. And yeah, basically I just got myself together, went to the fight, lost the fight, and just went about business as usual. But what I can say is that that experience, that awakening of realizing what was truly important, you know, in life, was, I learned more in that part of my martial arts journey. That one particular moment, I learned more about what was truth and what was important than any win or any victory or any celebration in the past. Everything put together didn't give me what that loss gave me. So it's interesting what life deals to you and why it does sometimes. And put it this way, there's not a moment that I look back and think, oh, I wish I was healthy and I had actually not gone through what I did in that moment, because those things, if you can awaken to them and really get the true value of what life teaches you, sometimes is so much more important. Yeah, so that was the only part of like martial arts journey that there was toughness, or there was a lot involved that that I will never forget. That's probably the most memorable part of my whole journey.
Oh, that's really, really interesting there, brother. I guess, and very, very, like very honest, feeling, and a lot of people shy away from that. So, thank you for sharing that with us, brother Mick. Anything you wanted to add on that?
No, really, I probably spoke about that earlier, brother,
Yeah.
with more that feeling of the guilt and everything about following my calling into the direction I am now. That was quite difficult for me on many levels. But now I
Yeah.
look back and I know I made the right decision. I just hope that I didn't, harm the organization. I sort of feel guilty or responsible pretty easy about stuff like that. So I need to just
No,
move
brother,
on. And yeah,
you don't have to feel guilty. You did the right thing. You helped so many. So I think all the gods are saying, you did the supreme beings are saying you did the right choice.
yeah.
With the legacy and the strong philosophy, what does strong strive to reach optimal new goals means to each of you, and what legacy do you hope to leave for the next generation of martial artists in Harvey Bay? Do you want to go first, brother Mick?
Yeah, well, you know, striving to reach optimal new goals, digging deep within yourself for inner strength and courage and heartfelt determination, resilience, all these qualities that as human beings, to me, that's really what a true warrior really is. We go through different phases of our life, and nothing's more important than anything else. They're just sections of your life as it progresses forward. So we needed the fighting. That's why I still support the teenagers and that have aspirations to want to get in the ring and to have a fight. Even if a little bit of it initially can be slightly ego driven, or they wanting to prove themselves or get recognition. That's very normal, and it can be part of a phase of maturation where the individual gets in there and then they are transformed through the experience. So I think the dig deep and to be a true warrior, I always think, have the courage to follow your heart. I think the heart, there's an old saying that says the heart is the place that we must daily face, for it is there that we find ourself. Our true authenticity is connected to our heart. So this is a big part of the integrated journey and the integrated chi yoga and everything we do. It's about providing opportunities for people to come in at all different stages of their journey for all different intentions, and to activate that part within themselves, to connect with their heart and to feel the power of the heart and their higher self, and bring that uplift that to the forefront of their life, and let that propel them forward into the future so they can actualize their full potential as a human being, and to see things like humility and kindness and compassion. These things are actually the qualities of what it means to be a warrior, as well as being a good physical fighter. So I really think that's what's driving, digging deep to access that power within yourself, the power that's connected to the infinite heart of the universe, I could call it. A lot of people have different names for that, but it's the same source, same power, and we're all equally connected to it. So I think that's what strong, that would be the legacy that I can help people to come into contact with that within themselves, so they can grow to become the best version, most empowered version of themselves humanly possible, and to be happy, to have a lot of inner peace, to have that sense of empowerment and freedom inside themselves. That's what I really want to seed that within everybody that I have the chance to support and encourage.
It's really lovely, brother. That is exactly the type of things we want to create. What about you, brother Tony?
Yeah, so yeah, I always speak to people about just being the best version of you can be, and the way to do that is continually challenge yourself mentally, physically, or spiritually. Whatever order the universe gives you, whatever order, it doesn't matter. There's a time when you need balance, and the universe will start directing you to which of those ones you need work on. But it's funny, like I never used to be the one to speak about the heart connections and the the universe and this and that, but it's incredible the way the world works, and the way like Mick and my path, because many years I used to describe Mick and I as like yin yang, always joined and on the same journey, complementing each other. But as we grew older, we sort of went off on our individual paths, and we had some conflicting views on things. And it's interesting that like I always watched Mick from my path in life, and could see that he was so much more spiritually mature and less self-serving, and always admired it so much. And it's interesting the way things happen, because much of to get back to what Mick was saying, with the physical path, is still a path that must be traveled if that's your calling. And that's where I was, with more ego-driven, sort of self-fulfilling, physical journey going on. But interestingly, when I retired from my involvement in martial arts only a few years ago, I had finally reached that point where I sat back in my chair and was proud, and everything that I'd done, and thought I'd done it all. And I'd openly tell people if I died tomorrow, I'd have no regrets. I've lived a blessed life, and this and that. And that's it's like I finally had to reach that point where physically I was content, because it was only through that retirement and letting go of that, for me, that I finally had an awakening of sorts. And it brought me about it sort of reinvented myself and exploring the spiritual side of existence. And what it did was allow me to fully understand my brother's path a lot more, and since that development, it's probably been the closest we have since we've been since we were little 5-year-old kids, inseparable. So now I find myself meditating daily, doing breath work, exploring consciousness, getting into quantum physics, how it connects science with metaphysical. And like, to me, it's like a whole entire world where I never once do I say if I died tomorrow, I'd be happy or content, because I now feel like I could live 3 more lifetimes just exploring that side of the truth of what we are, So, weekly I'm doing yoga, sitting in the cage with Mick and a few other, yoga practitioners, doing chi energy, instead of boxing each other's ears in. We're sitting there with candles and beautiful music going, and so it's been an incredible journey. So now I'm on my little spiritual journey. It's the right time for me, and I'm feeling just revitalized through it. As far as legacies, you spoke about what sort of legacy. I just like to continue to be, when I'm long gone, I'd like people, to be able to hear my voice in their head, reminding them that if you put 100% into life, that regardless of wins and losses, that you'll always be more than good enough. All I ever said to me kids is, you do your best and it will always be good enough. So I think if people remember that, and getting back to what Mick mentioned, one of the biggest things that I know the truth of, as far as the true power of it, is to, at any time where you've got big decisions or you're a bit confused, before you go to sleep, you ask your heart, not your head, for the information, for the guidance, because as Mick said, it's your heart that will lead you to where you need to be. There's so much craziness in the world, going on in your head, online stuff, news, this, that, and the next thing that. The only place you can really trust information from is if you ask your heart, and I can tell you that it will answer, it will help you. I've learned our physical life is just a brief gift of experience, and our only job while we're here is to strive to become a better human each day. So if I've got a final message, if you can not feel terrible guilt and beat yourself up about your mistakes or your shortfalls in life, if every day you forgive yourself and you actively work to become a better person, you've done your job and you'll turn out okay.
Oh yeah, that's a very beautiful message there, brother. And yeah, like there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of noise in the head. Yeah, it's a very good good example. Very good advice to follow your heart sometimes. Just the brain has got too many different things, distractions going on. The lead you in a sometimes different path. But no, thank you very much, Mick and Tony. Thanks for sharing your journey and wisdom. Your example shows that mentorship, discipline, and consistent effort have the power to shape stronger individuals and stronger communities. Your story is a reminder that martial art is not just about fighting, it's about guiding others to believe in themselves and rise above their challenges. To our listeners, stay committed, stay focused, and keep striving to reach the optimal new goals. This is the Strong Legacy podcast, where every story strengthens the next.
Thank you, brother.
Excellent.
Thank
mate.
you. Thank you.
Great to see you and talk to you, and we'll look forward to catching up next time you're in the Bay.
Thank you.